The rain is falling. Time keeps running. But life still feels undone.
Hold for focus. Focus is sad.
Like bees to the honey.
It was okay.
You know what they say? Where there's bees. Thank you. Okay.
Asheville has always been sort of a hub of culture, but it's been a hub for queer folks as well too there. And it's a bigger city, right, than Silva. Silva's a small town. That's why I love it. So, but we see sort of a surge of activism, and this kind of came around during the pandemic. I feel like it was sort of bubbling, but the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement sort of exploded all of this activism, I feel like, in the region.
When you're a baby and you have your first cupcake or something and you get that sugar rush, that's how the drag feels in Silva, like a sugar rush for all the people who have never experienced it before, versus in Asheville, the drag is more appreciated, like maybe like a fine wine or something like that.
I feel like Silva drag has kind of become a satellite for Asheville drag. I myself am based here in Silva, and I'd like to see more artists that are local to this area and people that are really passionate about being from this area and staying here and putting in that community work. In order to celebrate our differences, I think that it's important for our community, for our Western North Carolina community, to be exposed to a lot of different expressions and a lot of different perspectives. So I try to showcase diversity within my shows here in Silva.
I think that people are starting to see that there are pockets of queer people wherever you go, in the rural areas, in the small towns, in the countryside. They're there. We're everywhere, and I think now that we have such fast access to social media and streaming services, we see other queers like us, especially in these small rural country areas, and it's really uplifting to see.
I think that the way forward for us is to celebrate our diversity, because our community, our queer community, is so diverse. Queer people exist in every single neighborhood, every single creek and holler. There's a queer person. They may not be out, but we are everywhere. And recognizing the diversity within that, I think, is how we're gonna push forward.
So when we say pride, I want you to say, fuck yeah! Happy Pride! That's what I'm talking about.
Sometimes I just wanna get away, step out of myself and forget the bad days. Sometimes I just wanna escape, wash away the mess in my brain.
My first performance in drag was a pretty crazy one. I was very young. I only knew about drag from what I saw on TV and heard about. And I eventually went out to a bar and met a drag queen and asked her to be in her show, even though I barely knew how to be in drag and paint my face and stuff, and she obliged. And ever since that moment, I knew I wanted to pursue it. Drag is an art, and I mean, you may see me right here and think it looks easy peasy, but honey, there's art all over this. Not only in doing my face, not only in styling my wigs, but also in my clothes. I probably sew about 90% of my costumes, and it's one of my favorite parts of drag. With LGBT becoming more accepted all over the world and being more in the mainstream media. I believe that little country towns and just country, the word country as a whole, is changing its meaning because people are waking up and realizing that it's not what they thought and the stereotypes aren't true. And I think overall, like, places are realizing that people want to see this stuff and they want to come out and they want to have fun, and that there's no avoiding it at this point.
I think it's critically important to show folks, younger folks especially, that that's a safe space here. And this can often be like this. It's sort of hyperbole to say that's life and death, but truly, like, some of these folks are struggling, and they need to know that there's other queer folks here that are accepting and that they can talk to as well too. So inclusivity and visibility is incredibly important, I think, across the board in our community, but also in schools as well too.
Even still in the modern day, parents still turn away their kids for being queer or anything else. So in drag, we have something called drag families, which essentially is like a real family. My drag mother is Priscilla Chambers here in Asheville. She was on season 3 of Dragula. She was the queen I met at the bar who let me perform in her show. And after getting to know her, she asked me to be her daughter. And I said absolutely, because she knew what she was doing, and at the time I needed a lot of help.
I myself am a drag mother. That means I am a mentor to, so far, currently 2 other growing drag performers. I have my drag daughter, Miss Bailey Catch, and another drag child called Psychedelic. If they have any questions or if they want to perform, I can give them the resources that they need. And it's really about being a true friend to them, because a lot of queer folks don't have the experience of a tight nuclear family.
In order to be a drag queen, you not only have to look the part, you not only have to know how to apply makeup, you not only have to know how to cinch your waist, put on a wig, take care of your lashes, but you also have to understand what professionalism within a show means. I think that drag family is a really awesome way to sort of show you the ropes and to show you, what are the expectations for a performer. Those expectations of being that pillar in the community that drag queens are often found at. I grew up Southern Missionary Baptist, very devout, super faith-based family. We're all still pretty strongly religious. I still consider myself religious, but I hesitate to say whether or not anyone else would consider me that way. But my entire drag character was sort of based on the strong and empowered women that brought me up. That emotional strength out here in Western North Carolina, in the Southern Appalachians, is what really inspires me to perform. And I one day hope to make them proud, but we're still on that journey. I may identify as a woman out of drag as well, but at the end of the day, I put all of this on. I created this character. And in my day-to-day life, I don't really wear makeup because I am tired of people, yes, we stand, you're the only woman. Like, that's not affirming for me because I don't want to be a drag queen all the time. It's kind of a catch-22. I think that on one hand, it's the way forward by showing people that we exist out here, because we do. We exist everywhere. But at the same time, the more you're out there, the harder it can become.
And she's the honky-tonk to everybody's badonkadonk. Make some noise for your host, Beulah Lamb!
So Beulah Land, for those of us that aren't familiar, it's actually like a reference to scripture. There are a couple songs that are based off of it, and the one that I really love is Sweet Beulah Land, written by Squire Parsons in the 1970s. The opening lyrics to the song are, "I'm kind of homesick for a country where I've never been before." And that opening line just, it kind of, to me, it speaks to that level of community. We're homesick for this place that we are trying to create here in Western North Carolina. Not to say that community is heaven, but it's a pretty darn good place to start. For me, Beulah is the Southern woman that I never got to be growing up. And she's taught me a lot about myself, and in and out of drag, on and off the stage. But she's really, oh gosh, wow. Here come the tears. I told you I'd get emotional. Yeah. Beulah saved my life. I wouldn't be here today had I not found an artistic expression that allowed me to not only perform, but to cultivate an image, to cultivate an aesthetic, and give me the platform that I'm so grateful for today as the show director for a show here in Silva. I'm extremely grateful to everyone who's helped me along the way. Growing up in a 96% Caucasian high school, very, very white, very straight, very, very that. I had a question asked of me by our assistant principal at the time when I was a senior in high school. A senior in high school, I had been out for 3 years. He asked if I wanted to start a GSA, and I told him no. Because visibility to me meant being pushed into another locker. It meant being called faggot, yet again, like just by 10 other people, or experiencing discrimination. I tried to run for office in an organization, and people from not even my high school told me that they were going to quit if I came into office. Just trying to do my part and to represent the National FFA organization. It was really heartbreaking because that was an organization that my family had a lot of history with, and that I was kind of a legacy for. And then to be told that people were going to drop out of the organization just because there was somebody who was a little different, that was hard. So I think early on, visibility has been kind of that touchy subject.
Visibility for me means that people who are like me, who are growing up queer, and they might feel lonely or lost, being a visibly queer, trans, drag performer, to me, means that I'm holding a light for those people that may not see it otherwise, unless they come to Western or unless they see it on TV or something like that. I think what visibility means to me is guiding the way.
Visibility to me is a combination of not only being seen, but also being listened to and being respected. You have to have all three of those things. And right now, there's visibility everywhere. There's a lot of queer stuff on TV shows and in movies, those things actually exist. It was only like 20 years ago that people were being persecuted just for doing that stuff. So the fight definitely isn't over. And you just need to remember that whenever you see stuff like that, it's a big breakthrough.
Today, I raise wild native bees. These are mason bees, leafcutter bees, and they're solitary bees. So what they'll do is the females will emerge out of their cocoons. They'll lay an egg in a reed or a suitable site. They'll work really hard to feed the egg, and then they'll cap the cell in that little reed. It kind of speaks between the difference between honeybees that everyone's familiar with and these wild solitary bees that are the key to promoting biodiversity. Going from honeybees to these wild solitary bees, I think kind of mirrors what's going on in Southern Appalachia, in our community in Western North Carolina. You've got these big cities where queer people gravitate towards, and they create these societies that produce honey, or they produce new ideas about new like pronouns. They, them, came from honeybees. Whereas these solitary wild bees have always been here, but they're the ones that are really doing all the hard work. Honeybees are about 5% effective pollinators, which means 5% of the flowers that they visit, they effectively pollinate. Wild solitary bees pollinate at a rate of 95%. So the real work, I feel, is right here in Western North Carolina on the front lines.
I think there's been such an influx of drag because of the sort of activism that's happened lately with the Black Lives Matter movement. Not just that movement, but with marriage equality. Things have kind of been bubbling up, I think, now. The Pulse shootings that happened. A lot of activism around stuff like that. And we see, younger folks are gonna damn well be heard now. And that is wonderful for, me as a 40-year-old gay man. I'm like, hell yeah, come on, that's amazing. The one thing about drag here in Silva and also in Asheville is that there's several different types of drag, and that's what makes it beautiful. It's truly an art form.
I think one of the best directions to improve LGBTQ spaces in Western North Carolina is, for one thing, there are a lot of great bars and things that serve alcohol, but there's not a lot of places that would serve to sober communities. And if those people could come and be seen and have a place to feel safe and not pressured to take any substances, I think that would be a great help for the LGBTQ community here. I also think we need more trans-inclusive spaces. Just in the past few years, I've come to know so many trans folks in Jackson County, and it would be nice to know that there was a safe place for them, especially trans youth and queer youth.
Although not a lot of people who come out to drag shows treat it as a freak show and are just doing it as a shocking event, the couple that do, I think they need to remember that this is a culture, and that drag culture has been around decades, and we have traditions and important events that we care about, and drag is one of them. It's a big deal in the drag community, and we had to fight for years to get to this point of even seeing a drag queen on a TV show.
We've got a lot of challenges. Climate change, voter suppression. There's a lot of challenges that we face, and some unique challenges to Southern Appalachia. But by working together, by coming together, by harnessing the power of community and partnership, teamwork, I think that we can move forward. Tolerance isn't enough. You can tolerate me all day long, but we're not going to get anywhere until we come together and understand that we're people and respect one another. That's something that I think we've really lost, especially in this political climate. Within the queer community, I think because we've been so heavily pushed out, so adamantly and vehemently erased from those down-home roots, I think that it's very, it can be kind of traumatic to revisit that. And it's taken me a long time to understand that the culture that I grew up in is beautiful. Not saying that it's perfect, no culture is, but there is beauty where you're willing to find it. Once there was a burglar boy who went to rob a house. He crept right in, and under that bed he lay as still as a mouse. Just about 12 o'clock, in came the old maid, thinking everything was all right. She didn't look under the bed. Well, first came her teeth and her big glass eye and the hair from the top of her head. The burglar boy pitched 15 fits as he leapt from under the bed. I'm not scared nor excited, I'm just as cool as a mouse. At last my prayers were answered, at last I found me a man. She pulled a big revolver from under her arm and said, consent to marry me, young man, or I'll blow off the top of your head. The burglar boy looked all parts of the room and he seen no place to scoot. He looked at her hair and her eyes and her teeth, and he said, for the Lord's sake, shoot.
I love it. I love it. Burglar boy.
Burglar boy forever.
My favorite.
But make some noise once again for Beulah Land. Show's over, folks. Bye. Happy Pride.